I think we've just gone live, friends. A very warm welcome to you, he said, scratching his head. On a Sunday afternoon, I'm broadcasting here from Bacala Laguna, which is international headquarters for the New Earth project for the New Earth University. We're also building a residential complex. It's a huge undertaking, and this is really now my second home alongside Bali. We're also building a state-of-the-art recording. When I say recording, I mean a media studio. There he is, the old rock and roll kicks in. We plan to do a recording studio as well at some point. But no, we're doing a proper broadcast studio for the Arise Guerrilla network. It's time we had a physical presence. For heaven's sake, it's our 10th broadcast. We have to build our own studio. So, having full interactivity, and we're having some talks with the people who own the satellites, some of the good free Illuminati people that I have access to, being the shill that I am. But the point being, I think that where we're going to take media, alternative media, in the next year is going to be tremendous fun. Stay tuned, because we're going to be doing it right here. Before we kick off today's show, and just so you know, I've got Joey Gilbert coming in, and when he jumps into the green room, I've got to drop everything and go bring him on live. He's incredibly busy and running between planes, I think, aeroplanes. So Joey Gilbert, just to give an introduction before he comes on, is a former boxer, veteran, attorney, and I see here, proud single dad of his 11-year-old daughter. He's also the Nevada governor candidate, and he's doing a political update. Emphasis on the plans he has to declare a state of emergency in Nevada's public schools to fix them. He's an incredible human being. I met him on the campaign trail last year. So if I drop straight live to Joey Gilbert, you'll know why. Let me just start this broadcast by a memoriam. I want to honor an incredible human being, the Honorable David Kilgore, former Secretary of State for Canada, an incredible political animal who died in the course of last week. I'll show you a photograph of him. Here he is. David Kilgore is the kind of politician or member of parliament or congressman or Secretary of State or leader that you would want to have in your government. And I believe he's the last of his line. He joined us, there he is, at the International Tribunal for Natural Justice when we did the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into human trafficking and child sex abuse in Westminster, London in 2018. And that's the Honourable Dave Kilgore standing between Ethan Gutman and His Grace Bishop Rhea, the Bishop of Jerusalem, and one of our commissioners with the tribunal, which, as some of you know, I founded in 2015, and which is still conducting various commissions of inquiry. This is just some photographs from that judicial inquiry. There is Dave Kilgore again. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful human being who will be sorely missed. So that's the in memoriam to Dave Kilgore, the Canadian politician and former Secretary of State who just died. God bless his very noble soul. Okay, whilst we're on that subject, and I'm just going to riff for a few minutes until Joey Gilbert gets on, talking about trafficking and talking about blood harvest and about the ritual sacrifice of innocence. One of our guests coming on today, Trugot Ikarov from Germany, who you'll be seeing in a short while. He and I were speaking in the green room earlier, and he was speaking a bit about the deep underground military bases and about, he'll speak about that when he comes on, some of the ones that Vladimir Putin and Russia are involved in taking down, connecting to a story that's going on underground in some of these dams. And I said immediately, oh, we can't go there. We mustn't speak about that. We mustn't speak about the reptilians. So I heard myself vetoing truth, which is not what I do in this world. I'm not born to veto truth. And my rationale for for trying to change the conversation was that the Arise Guerrilla News Network is seeking to align itself more into the mainstream contextual framework so that we can answer questions to people who are crossing over. But then it brings in me a bit of a crisis of conscience, because actually the Draco reptilian, shape-shifting reptile, lower elemental, demonic, fucked up ET intervention into the human genetic is the very problem. It is the source of the problem. And so we must speak to it, and we must speak to it boldly where we can. And so I will take back what I said to my friend True Goat, and when he comes online, he's welcome to speak to this. Because yes, indeed, I happen to know for a fact, I just sat down with five-star military generals and intelligence chiefs in Eastern Europe a couple of weeks ago for a period of 4 or 5 days. And they were talking about this stuff. So yes, it's real. And if you can't handle it, switch off. If you get triggered, get untriggered. It's time for that conversation. We need to start to really thread a complete, integrated understanding of truth and of this paradigmatic shift that we've all been born into. This is our age of reckoning. Comprehend the incomprehensible and to make peace with grave truths that cause horror or strike horror into our hearts. It is only the unknown element or aspect of things that brings about that sense of dread or that sense of fear. And all that teaches us is that we need to transmute and transcend our own frequency and our own capability or capacity to receive truth in its truest form without trying to filter it, without trying to dilute it. So yes, let's just go there. If we lose a whole bunch of Midwestern Christian zealots because we are going to speak about reptilians in the deep underground military bases who are being taken out by microwave weapons, by good military apparatus, which will also help for us to explain so much about this so-called war going on in the biolabs, and we're talking about bioweaponry. When we're talking about Fauci and Center for Disease Control and the World Health Organization, we're also talking there about bioweaponry, okay? And bioweaponry that is imposed into the medical science fraternity and then into the public health sector is what it is: genetic interventionism. What does that mean? It means that we're being hybridized. What is a hybrid? A hybrid is a non-human. So this is the chain of thought that pure truth takes us and bold action takes us into. So yes, we are being genetically modified into and fashioned into a creature that becomes the utility of invisible master cycle. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. And of course, the mainstream media and academia and entertainment complex only ridicule this kind of narrative. Of course, they would put any of Joanne, are you with me, the girl? Can you hear me? Okay, looks like she's jumped off. No problem. Joey Gilbert is with us. Joey.
Hello, Sasha. How are you, brother?
Very, very happy to see your face, and thank you for joining at such short notice.
No problem. I'm just doing a quick drop off of my daughter, and then I'm going to be able to be situated for a second, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to say hello to you and just to catch up. Lots of things are happening.
Bless you. Well, Joey, if you're happy to riff now, just riff now, because this is your 10 minutes, and I know you've got a busy day ahead of you.
No, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready.
Well, okay, let's speak. I've got two questions. One, as governor, how would you have handled COVID Alpha Omega? Speak to that.
Oh my God. Well, let's just say that I think our current corrupt scumbag governor did everything he could have possibly done to inflict as much pain, cause as much suffering, as much death, as much harm, destroy as many businesses. And so if anybody knows who Kristi Noem is, she's the governor in South Dakota. I would have never shut a business. I would have never shut a school. I would have never sent the kids home or canceled their sports. I would have never prevented doctors from using whatever medications they felt was best for their patients. And I proved that by suing our governor for hydroxychloroquine. So it would have been a completely 180-degree different response. It would have been the people's response, where I would have made sure that, look, early on, Sasha, this, we knew exactly how to treat this disease, and we knew exactly who to treat with it. So from, my father getting COVID in early March 2020, we got him on hydroxychloroquine, vitamin D3, azithromycin, zinc sulfate, and he really made a recovery in less than, 2 hours. My mother was about 6 hours. I went on to get hired by the Nevada Osteopathic Medical Association, 300 doctors, and we represented these doctors. And, we got rid of the governor's emergency mandate to go past July 23rd, 2020. And I only tell you that because out of all these doctors, we didn't lose one patient to get hospitalized. One patient died after we were able to start treating with hydroxychloroquine. And the stories go on and on, from Pierre Corey to, Dr. McCullough now. Everyone knows that early use multi-drug therapy was the way to go. There was never this send people home with bilateral pneumonia and COVID and tell them to come back when they were sicker. That's the most obscene, idiotic thing I've ever heard. And I really do believe that these blue state governors and these people that didn't do everything they could do to protect the people committed crimes against humanity. And I would absolutely, as I said, not only have done things completely differently, but I would have never let people suffer the way they did. They didn't need to. And that's my plank.
So who in that case does Kristi Noem actually take instruction from? Who is she working for?
She works for the people.
Well,
she works for the people in South Dakota.
Apparently not. I mean, the abrogations and derogations are happening by so many leaders. I think that's what we're discussing, unless I missed the point. So who are they taking instruction from? Who do they work for?
They work for the big banks, for the big pharma. Big pharma controls everybody. They control Congress. They control our medical schools. They control literally everything. Again, if you look at who owns, big pharma, BlackRock, Vanguard, it's all one big global, you can call it the global elite. It's just the power brokers of this world that want to control the world's food supply. They want to control monetary policy. They want to control everything that we, people do. So that's who they all answer to. And it's disgusting, quite frankly.
Okay, agreed. And if we're talking about the net result of this kind of travesty at leadership level, eventuates into not just pandemonium, socioeconomically and what have you, but it arrives at death. I mean, thousands of people, possibly tens or hundreds of thousands of people are affected. A lot of people die. This is an expression of treason. How do we deal with treason in the 21st century?
Well, Sasha, I believe that this has reached such a level that it can never happen again. People talk about Nuremberg 2.0. These people need to go to jail. They need to face severe penalties. This was not some accident. By May 2020, June at the latest, we knew exactly what was going on. Those of us that were not, awakened's not even the proper word. All you had to do was get on the internet do some research. You found out what was going on. And then when you find out that this vaccine was actually made in 2016, you know, no one saw. I mean, you see what's happened in the past. You know, when they're making something, you see the manufacturer labels being put on, they're being spun out. Where did a billion vaccines come from? I
Right.
never saw one picture of them. And why were the PCR tests ordered in 2018? This was mass genocide. This was mass crimes against humanity inflicted by the world elite. They knew exactly what they were doing. And I'll tell you right now, you know, one of the reasons why I am facing the, you know, just the obstacles I'm facing as running for governor is because they know exactly what's going to happen when I get in. Doctors are going to go to jail. CEOs of hospitals are going to be prosecuted. People are going to get indicted. You know, I don't take this lightly. And you know what? If I go out swinging, so be it. You know, I will never allow this to happen again. It can't happen again. These people must face justice. They should, as you know, what do you do in the 20th century? They need to be charged with treason and they need to face trial. I think I lost you for a second, Sasha. Oh, there you're there. I lost you for a second.
No, I'm here. I'm here, Joey. You've just jumped back on. Brother, just very quickly, can you tell us about if and when you get into power, you said you'll declare a state of emergency for Nevada public schools in order to fix them. This is one of the most seminal statements, really. Talk about this, please. Just riff on this.
Yeah, so look, you know, I want to be careful here because I don't believe that these states of emergency, first of all, I do think states of emergency do exist when there's an actual emergency. And right now, you know, we've had more deaths in our school. First of all, in Nevada, 0 through 19 years old, we've not had one death, not one death from COVID. But we've had the highest suicides per capita in the country, the highest drug addiction, mental health. These kids are checking themselves in at record rates. We have absenteeism, meaning kids aren't coming to school, 40%. 40% are under the influence of drugs or alcohol. There were 7,000 violent assaults in Clark County School District, a school district that's the 5th largest in the United States. I'll break it up into 5 districts. But in just since August, we're not even at the end of the school year yet. That's 7,000 police reports. How many reports were not made? So we truly have a crisis, chaos in our schools. And why is that? It's because of those people that are in power. So what does a governor's emergency powers allow him to do? Well, I've studied this better than anyone else. NRS 414 allows the governor to come in when there's a true public health emergency, when there is a true public health crisis, which we're seeing in our schools. And I would declare an emergency. Why? To take the power away from these absolutely incompetent and absolutely, you know, demonic people. All they're worried about is teaching the kids about, you know, critical race theory, social indoctrination, transgender, you know, again, brainwashing like you've never seen. And so someone needs to step in and say, okay, enough's enough. You know, if you commit a crime against a teacher, you violently assault another classmate, you sexually assault a female student in a bathroom, you're getting handcuffed and you're going to the juvenile justice center so you can face a trial. And that's what needs to happen. So declaring a public health emergency, an emergency in our schools, would simply for me to take back control for as little as I need to. A true leader gives power back to the people as quickly as possible. I think I could do it in 8 weeks.
Beautiful. Joey, 1 minute left of your time. Where do people find you to support the campaign?
They go to gilbertforgovernor.com. And listen, Sasha, this is not, the campaign is not about me. It's about we the people. I always say to everybody, this is not my campaign. This is our campaign. We need to fight for we the people. Go to gilbertforgovernor.com. You know, help however you can. Please send in a contribution if you can, or just share. Go on my Facebook, just Joey Gilbert. Find me on Facebook, share my information, share my website, watch my video on gilbertforgovernor.com. And if you're not convinced I'm the absolute right guy at the time, right guy, right time for this job, then I don't know what to say, but I'm a father first and I'm a fighter.
Beautiful. Joey, thank you. And I'm going to reach out to you in the next week through Joanne, because I'd like to really get behind the campaign, do some very dedicated media on that. God bless you, brother. Salutations your way.
Thank you, Sasha. All right, brother. Have a good one. Bless you, man.
Bye now. Fantastic. All right, friends, next up, I've got impossible name, incidentally, but I've just managed to get my head around it. Trugot Igobot. He's going to correct me. This is the German update from a remarkable man who seems to be a metaphysician, a student of the occultic or the hidden mysteries, a spiritual teacher. a world traveler, and a very popular blogger and chronicler of our times in German-speaking countries. For 2 years, he has tracked daily the events of COVIDiocy. So let's hear what he has to say. Traugott, you are very welcome on this platform today.
Hello, Sasha. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to talk with you. Thank you very much for this invitation.
Bless you, brother. So you've got 10 minutes and I've already decensored you so you can speak to your heart's content, even about reptilians being taken down in deep underground military bases by Putin-sponsored microwave weapons. Go for it.
Yes, you know, the Ukraine, there is a war, but this war is on some levels. It's a spiritual war, an outer war with tanks, and on the earth, there is another war going on. At least three important things. One are at least one, maybe two, so-called adrenochrome facilities, factories, more or less. The other thing is now they have found 30 biolabs, and there they are producing more or less poison for human mankind, for all human mankind, not only for Russians. And then we have some dumps, deep underground military bases, and there is also a war going on. But this is covered by another war. It's the same like in Syria. For example, there is a big town, Idlib it's called, and northeast of Idlib, the Russian found 3 dumps with these entities, and the Spetsnaz had problems fighting against them. And so they asked the Americans, and the Americans said to them, you have to use special kinds of weapons, for example, microwave weapons to vaporize them. And then they had success in 2 of these dumps. And in the 3rd dump, the reptiles opened a dimension portal and they could escape. And this underground war is not only in Ukraine, not only in Syria, it's all over the world. But the public don't know. They should not know. They should only get brainwashed and vaccinated.
Well, you know, the thing is this. I've spent time speaking to military intelligence people very recently, in fact, in the last couple of weeks also, about this phenomenon of again, I said this in my introduction a little earlier, about the fact that the big game is genetic interventionism and the genetic hybridization of the human being into becoming a utility of the demonic realms, because that's what's happening. If we allow for this draconian element to be interposed programs and through the introduction of synthetic molecules in the air, the water, the food supply, this is all part of what defines a interventionism at the genetic level, is how synthetic chemical poisons have been put into our reality at an industrial level by our governments and university complexes working in concert. Now, it is invisible elites working in occultic echelons that are working together for a long time to create this interventionism. It's a morphogenesis and about the morphogenetic field and how that activation is bringing the redemption and the salvation to humanity, despite all of these satanic agendas.
Yes, what we have to understand is that these kind of entities have separated themselves from the source. And so the source is not only an information field, like Rupert Sheldrake told us, it's also a field where we get energy from. And if these entities are separated from this source, they have no energy. And they need the energy from somewhere else. So they choose the human mankind to earn these energies. This is one point. the other point is that these entities are working together with some people of the elite. This is very occult information, but they are in close contact with these entities, and if they make a ritual, then within this ritual they give these entities energy. And the problem is that these energies, which they worshipped, they have no such thing like in the Hinduism or in the Veda. It's called Anahata chakra. This is the chakra of the heart. They are separated from their heart, or more or less they have none. Some reptilian race have, I've been told, but more or less, mostly they have not. And they don't understand what is suffering, what is pain. They have not an iota of idea. And so they make these hybrid programs because on one hand, they want to have these feelings. On the other hand, they are afraid to have these feelings. But now, like Gene Decode, maybe you know him, told us that they now want to give the earth back to human mankind. And a lot of people which have too much reptilian genetic have no contact to their, I called it inner pilot. They don't hear the voice of their heart. And so they took the vaccination. This is pure poison.
Very good.
No doubt. And so they took themselves out of the game. And what remains? Only humans remain with maybe no or very few, very less reptilian genetic. That's the point. We have to understand.
That is wonderfully illustrated, True Goat. That is beautifully illustrated. Voice of the heart, our inner navigation center, our psionic intelligence, i.e. our conscience, our God-given conscience, is the determiner of the outcome ultimately. And anyone who is failing to listen to that inner dictate is likely to be listening to the outer dictate. And the outer dictate is going to be some imbecile in a doctor's white coat, or some stupid nurse, or some stupid public health administrator speaking on some stupid television program. And that outer dictate becomes your authority because you have abdicated your own inner pilot, as you put it. And that is what is creating the distinction between the living and the dead, the masked and the unmasked. So thank you for that clarity. I love very much the way you put that. And you also spoke about the relationship between certain lower elemental intelligences, even extraterrestrial intelligences, and political. That's a historical phenomenon that we can trace back in the modern context to the Tool Society and under the aegis of the Nazis, Project Paperclip and Antarctica, all of that, which is really the genesis point of the true deep state today. So speak a little bit about that from the Tool Society onward and how it became even more and more compartmentalized.
Yes, this is a very big topic.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay, it started thousands of years ago. The Veda, the Vedanta, and the Mayas, they have wide numbers of years where all this took place, and now we are in the so-called Kali Yuga, where all these negative things can happen. And now we came to a point where it's changing. It must change. It needs to change, and we go in. The main point is not what is in the outer world. The mostly important point is what happens within us. We can't be on the outer level sovereign if we haven't found our inner sovereignty within ourselves. And that we get if we can only have if we are connected with the morphogenetic field of human mankind. If we have this, then the outer world is coming some days or months or weeks later. First, we have find a solution on the inner level, and what we see in the outer world is just the manifestation of what we already achieved on the inner level.
Wonderful. Trugot, thank you so much. Stay put there for one moment. I make you and Maria Chrysler, who's my next guest. We're very happy to see you today. To those who don't know, this remarkable part Native American beautiful woman is a preeminent clinical researcher and microbiologist, and she is going to shock us with what she can tell us today vis-a-vis spike proteins and the continued harm being conducted against the human biome by medical interventionism. Maria, you're very welcome today.
Hey, Sasha, how are you? You hear me okay?
Yes. Did you hear a little about what our good friend Trugot was telling us?
I actually love that take on everything. There is a dissociation, and I think there's scientific reasons why as well. So I thought it was very cool. I mean, I appreciate that presentation very much.
Very good. Well, tell us what your update report is vis-a-vis. Well, you can just riff on it. I don't need to lead you.
Sure. So I wanted an opportunity to lead your viewers and allow them to really know what's in this spike protein. We know from different other, reports and patents, we know that there are 7 different types of patented spikes. So it's no telling what everybody was either infected or transfected with. There are different variations of all of this is what I'm trying to say. So this has been a very, very difficult road for the scientific community. There are a lot of disagreements within the scientific community about, what's what we can isolate, for instance, versus, what we can draw blood and go back and associate with. So I wanted to give your audience just a take on exactly, not an all-inclusive, but a very long laundry list of what is contained on the spike protein. This might help people understand symptomology a little bit better. So the spike protein, nucleocapsid S1 and S2 glycoproteins. There are gene sequences homologous to cobra, crate, and Kona snail neurotoxins. So when we say homologous, we mean that there are, for instance, we have fingers, phalanges. Well, so do whales, right? So do other animals. So when we say homologous, then they're basically the same structure and function, but not necessarily, an identical match. So I wanted to get that straight for people. There are proteins, enzymes, peptides, metalloproteinases, number 3 and number 9 specifically, that are involved in lung injury. These are catalytic mechanisms that involve metals. Okay, so I know that your viewers will be keen on knowing that. There are phospholipases. When you think of those, just think of inflammation. These can be 3-finger toxins that cause injury to skeletal muscles, paralysis, muscle damage, a lot of pain during and post-recovery. Influenza A, B, and C. And what do we know? They did not test for influenza throughout this pandemic, right? It was all about coronavirus. Well, that was because probably they inserted influenza A, B, and C into these spike proteins. They also contain herpes virus, which is linked to Epstein-Barr virus in lymphoid cells, hepatitis C, glycans, cytomegalovirus, pox virus, HIV glycans, which allow entry into your cells, affect cellular adhesion, hantavirus, adenoviruses, and this was a big one, pox virus, which is a piece of smallpox. Okay, so who knows what that's doing in there, but it shouldn't be there. SEB, which it's a Staphylococcus endotoxin B virus from a bacteria, which induces lung injury. Okay, glycans, which avoid immune detection, and this was actually pretty interesting that the actual spike changes its shape once it encounters your cell, without even having to enter your cell.
Yeah.
Allows it to elude your immune system. So this was one hell of a bioweapon. One hell of a bioweapon.
Well, very cleverly conceived. Very
Oh my
cleverly
gosh.
conceived. Yeah.
What they did was they mimic processes by having these different phospholipases. This is the confusion in the scientific community because, you know, the human body also has a lot of these same types of enzymes and processes, right? So, you know, some people in the scientific community are saying, you know, well, this isn't, for instance, snake venom. This is what your body already has in it. I saw one rebuttal to, I believe, Watch the Water. I saw one rebuttal to it, which said, well, that's because, you know, it's already present in the human body. Well, now, wait a minute. You know, the human body also has checks and balances. And, you know, whenever we are hyperstimulating something or we are overly exposed to something, or we have, say, bioaccumulation because of the other drugs that we're taking, then you're going to turn on certain metabolic processes that if this is in the bioweapon, we're going to have a hard time stopping. The other thing that I thought was very interesting, so that's your phospholipases, right? So this is a lot where the scientific community gets hung up on, you know, what could be in the vials or what you know isn't in the vials, or what they think isn't in the vials. We are seeing serine proteases, which are present in both, right? Venom and spike proteins, or the human body, I should say, which cause regional arterial thrombosis via coagulation and regional ischemic pain. So I know a lot of your viewers can relate to that. Obviously, we're seeing clots everywhere. You get sick, you have extreme pain. I got sick, which was really odd to me. I thought I was indestructible, and I felt like my muscles were completely detached from my body. Well, as it turns out, that, you know, it affects your neurotransmitters, your acetylcholine neurotransmitter junction, and you do feel like you have rhabdomyolysis, or, you know, you are completely detached from your body because these things aren't working.
Okay.
That was really, and I know this is technical, so I'm trying to keep it,
Yeah.
you know, less technical for viewers. I know there are these fasciculins. So you're seeing videos of red blood cells adhering to one another, and you get rouleau is what you're seeing, and pronounced different ways. I pronounce it rouleau. I'm an expert microscopist, so I've seen a lot of these different things, created red cells and that. These fasciculins that are actually present, they are 3-finger toxins, and they are present in the spike protein. These actually damage the red cell membrane. And like I said, you have these metalloproteinases that do the same thing. They're metallic, also do the same thing, damaging the red blood cell membrane. You're changing the electrical charge all over your body, and then you're increasing your inflammatory response and getting all of these adhesions in your arteries. That's one thing that these serine proteases cause. So you know, we're seeing arterial clots where we would never see arterial clots before. But that's all a part of the bioweapon. What we don't know, and I don't want to ramble too far, but what we don't know is what's present in the vials, in the vaccinations. Which spike protein version did they make? There are cleavage sites, these furin cleavage sites. Which spike protein did they attach to, or put in which vial? Because we know that that's what they used. One other thing with these fasciculins, you get edema, hair loss, temperature changes, and these things. And I want your viewers to know that these things can happen hours, weeks, months, and even years, and become a permanent issue. So bioremediation is absolutely essential, because just because you think that you're okay, you might not necessarily be okay later on down the road. That's long.
Very good. Very good. I want to bring in quickly Trugoat, in case he has a question for you, Maria, because I think it would be a pointed one. Any question you may have? Trugoat, any question you may have for our medical scientist?
No, I have no question, but I understand her fully. But I think one should be said that this so-called vaccination was not created by human scientists. In my opinion, it was given us by the reptiles, because it's so complex. It's so intelligent. And it's not only the spike proteins or the lipids. There is also graphenoxide, and there is a reaction between 5G. This is so crazy stuff you can't imagine. And I can't imagine myself that a human normal scientist has this idea.
I'm so glad that you said that about the reaction with 5G, because an illness that I had in 2019 was completely, and my D-dimer was over 1700. And I'm a healthy, athlete. And my sickness was far different in December of 2019 with a 1700 D-dimer, which is incredible. A ton of pain, but far different than what I experienced in August of 2020, 2021, something like that, which was neurodegenerative, very, very strange. Two completely different weapons doing completely different things to scare the population into taking the death shot. That's exactly what's happened. So I appreciate you saying that, because that's truly what I believe as well.
Okay. Maria, thank you. Fascinating. You've definitely answered a lot of questions of a lot of people, emphasis connected to the latest hoo-ha about snake venom and blah blah. So thank you for contacting that within the framing of proper medical science forensics. That's helpful. And True God, thank you for joining us, brother. I'm looking forward to doing a much more intensive drop with you very shortly. So we'll reach out to you. Thank you both so very much.
Thank you, Sasha.
Okay, good. Next up, Gina. I'm calling Gina, and I'm calling her segment Family X. She reached out to me, a horrible story, and just, I believe, a fairly mundane story as well. How awful for me to say that. 3 or 4 members of her family killed, medical murder by best account in the last few months. Let's hear from Gina. I'm going to bring you on here, girl. Give me one moment. There you are. Gina, can you hear me?
Muted.
Okay.
You got me?
I've got you there, girl. Thank you for joining us today. I know you're not showing your face, and that's perfectly acceptable. There's no reason why you should make yourself a suburban target. That's my job, not yours. Gina, tell us, please, about your story.
First of all, thank you. I'll do it as quickly as I can. Thank you so much for having us on. My family is listening. I've typed up bullet points from the situation so that I could stick to the subject. From August 2021 through November 21, 4 family members were admitted into the hospital for COVID care. Only 1 made it out alive. My nephew, age 47, and my sister's only son, who had 2 small daughters and recently gotten through an exceedingly difficult and emotional divorce, was raising his daughters after obtaining custody. He took them to Disney to get their minds off of the quarantine mandates and the COVID circus. They contracted the illness there. It spread throughout his family like wildfire after he arrived home. Most of the ailments were not severe, flu-like. He succumbed to the symptoms, however, daily until finally he had been vomiting for 5 days straight and at an oxygen level of 87% after being immediately admitted through the ER. My brother-in-law, age 74, was a decorated Vietnam hero, saving his entire platoon from sabotage by the Viet Cong enemy. He single-handedly stopped the slaughter of his platoon and recognized for his bravery by the government with several medals and commendations. However, he was no match for the medical industry, who, in my opinion, experimented on him until his death September 9th, 2021. He died alone unnecessarily. Finally, my brother, age 70, had survived a difficult surgery prior to getting the vaccine, a surgery that would finally repair a hole in his heart. We were given the speech about him possibly not making it through the surgery and to prepare ourselves. We kissed him goodbye and waited for hours. Finally, his cardiologist emerged, letting us know he had made it. He was going to be fine. His life was about to begin a new course, and he became healthy. He finally got back to work and was overjoyed to help his customers, as he had driven a bus like his hero, Ralph Cramden, from the Honeymooners. After a few months, his cardiologist convinced him to take the jab to protect himself from the upcoming illness. I pleaded with him to wait, but he trusted this doctor with his life. He gave in to the pressure. His symptoms started 6 hours after the shot, and he was admitted to the very same hospital at the very same time as my brother-in-law, my sister, and my nephew. He was suffering from blood clotting in his nose and stomach, resulting in emergency surgery, and fell to repeated strokes and weeks, months of agony. My nephew and I had spoken once on the phone on 8/4/21. He explained to me what brought him into the hospital. He told me he was frightened and did not want to be vented or intubated. A day later, he texted me and asked me to be his power of attorney. I'd gotten updates in the 1.5 days before he was admitted into the ICU. Each time I had spoken with a member of the medical staff, I vehemently stated that he should not be vented or intubated. It got to a point where I asked for him to be transferred from that hospital to a trauma center for alternative care. They flat out refused, saying that he was now critical. I implored the pulmonary physician to give him convalescent plasma, stating that President Trump signed a right to try law, that it was my right on behalf of my nephew to demand this care. It was my cousin who suggested this treatment, as she was a director of nursing at a cancer treatment center, who suggested the treatment as she, what they were doing. This was the treatment they were doing to their most critical ER patients. I had continued getting medical advice from the frontline doctors at that location and collaborated with her for his care. The doctor told me in one phone call, that the doctor that was treating my nephew, he said that he didn't know what convalescent plasma was. He said he didn't know how to get it. And finally, he said my nephew was too far gone to receive it. I started getting extremely nervous as I knew something was not right. At no point did they ever tell me he was so severely infected that he was going to pass. Never. In fact, there were 2 occasions where they had given me false hope of bringing him home, as was the case with his father. My family members were given remdesivir, and the unvaxxed were constantly harassed about their vaccination status. My sister, after receiving 9 days of this drug, demanded to be released. Normally, a truly kind and docile individual, she instinctively knew something was very wrong. She demanded to be released, and this physician refused. She had to threaten the medical staff and doctor by calling the police and telling them she was being held against her will if they did not let her go. The doctor tried to convince her to continue the remdesivir. She refused, once again demanding her release. Currently, her status is deceased per hospital records. I went to the medical records division to obtain copies of their records, and I was told at the time that I had to fill out a deceased relative form for my sister. Infuriated, I screamed. She was not dead. She would be celebrating her birthday the following day. She's the only one out of all 4 that made it out alive. During the time she was there, she was next door to her husband. And one door down from her son. I begged the nursing staff, to let them be together so they could see each other. They refused. They also refused my request to see my nephew after they admitted him into the ICU. They intubated him against his will and against my repeated instructions. After my sister got home and recuperated a bit, she asked to see her husband. The hospital and all the doctors refused her request. She was even told his release may be Wednesday, and that Friday, he was admitted into the ICU and intubated, placed on a kidney machine. On 8/24, a news article and television news report surfaced saying that the governor of our state had planned to free up the ICU beds that were currently filled so that more people could be treated. My nephew died on 8/25, the next day. He was there 20 days. The following day, I'm sorry. I filled out a Freedom of Information request to obtain the transcripts, but oddly, they were unavailable to accommodate me. The identifying number of the broadcast and the news article was no longer available. My nephew's body was 3 times its size. His skin felt like rubber. He died alone. They would only let us see him after he had gone. No autopsy was performed. We were told he perished from a heart condition and that he had difficulties with his lungs due to COVID. He was a healthy young man, no prior heart problems whatsoever. My brother-in-law passed away alone as well. Although the time and date remains unsure, he was last seen on 9/4, then deemed deceased on 9/9. This is written on his death certificate. My sister begged the staff to let her be with him. They refused, stating he was positive for COVID. She said she already had COVID and would adhere to hospital policy. After we knew of his passing, I convinced her to autopsy, and she agreed. The first thing the autopsy company had to do was a COVID test and find out if he was positive, and a light went on. We agreed. To our amazement, the COVID test was negative. This autopsy company held his body for 8 hours and then advised us they could not perform the autopsy without reason. I had found an alternative company who again performed a COVID test, and that too was negative. They performed the autopsy, and the results were baffling. There were several contusions on my brother-in-law's face, his chest, his groin, his knees, his feet. The report indicated that he was circumcised when he was not. His body contained over 40 medications, most of which were benzos, tranquilizers, and insane amounts of sedatives. His blood alcohol content was 28%. It was unheard of. He was also given an experimental drug not listed by the CDC publicly to combat COVID. We were shocked, saddened, and confused. My sister lost her entire immediate family. He continually receives bills for their hospital care, more than $100,000, and then placed now into collections for an unpaid bill of hers in the amount of $10.38. She has also received denial letters from his health insurance company stating that the protocol used on him was not covered. She cannot obtain information as to what that was, but they are now going after her for the balance. I have made a plea to over 15 attorneys, locally and nationally. I have contacted a sheriff running for the Supreme Court, state's attorneys, medical malpractice attorneys. I have contacted famous attorneys. I have contacted someone running for the state here, Senate, who turned his back on me without notice, just refused communicating with me. The lowest retainer I was given was $45,000 to try to get justice for the deaths of our family members, when clearly there was nefarious foul play involved at every turn. This was and continues to be my goal. My brother-in-law's medical records have been reviewed by a local coroner's office who advised that I needed to find a legal assistance to find the underlying cause of his death. We are forced every single day to live without them all.
Okay, Gina, let me jump in here. Okay. Wow, it's so much worse than I expected. Let me just say the following. We're not much of a cavalry, but insofar as we can be, we've arrived. I need to get hold of the hospital reports. I need the autopsies. We need the name of the supervising general, whatever the fuck you call it in the United States, of the hospital in question. I want the chief mortician's name. I want the faces and names of the doctors and the nurses, the consultants, every step of the way. So if you could kindly, with your family, put together whatever records you can get, photographs, names, and get them across to my team. We're going to make Family X pretty famous, and we will do the call to action. And by the grace of God, we'll get the legal representation that you need, because your case is my case. Your case is our case. And the key piece here, Gina, to you and your family, that you need to know, because we're going to be working together on this in the coming weeks and months. But I think the key piece here for you to know, and I know in insurmountable grief, it's sometimes almost impossible to hear rationale, but it's quite clear to me that your family members are the angelics, and that these deaths are angelic deaths, and they are here precisely in order to catalyze an awakening and a revelation for thousands millions of people around the world. Okay, so just take that peace with you, peace upon you and your family, and let's take a private call this week. We're not going to let this one go. All right, girl?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Much love to you and your family. And last thing I'd like to ask you to do, can you just please name your 3 family members? What were their names?
Certainly. Jean, Michael, and Nikki.
Thank you. Salutations to you, girl. Much love to your family. Speak to you next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oof, okie dokie. Joanne, are you on standby to drop the media piece in? Joanne, you'll need to talk to me when you're in production, girl.
Talking. Can you hear me? Hi.
Okay, now we
Great.
can. Can you drop the film in on Mark Passio?
I am right now. Should be going.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Delighted today to be introducing the iconic Mark Passio to our audience. Mark, good to see you, brother.
Sasha, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
To those folks amongst you, the lesser conscious ones who don't know who Mark Passio is, I'll do this just as a service to you. Mark is a renowned anarchist, independent researcher, public speaker, internet talk show host, a documentary filmmaker, technology seminar instructor, conference organizer, lead vocalist, and freedom activist from Philadelphia, United States, and more than all of the above, a fully paid up human being of the angelic seeding kind. Mark, I've been following your work for a great many years, and I see you on that side of the Atlantic as being one of the seminal truth sayers and lodestars. I think I would describe you as a lodestar, somebody who acts as an anchor point in the firmament of revelation and remedy for thousands of people around the world. So thank you, sir, for the service.
Sasha, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's very heartfelt. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Beautiful. Straight into it for the AGN audience. You've compiled a vast amount of research and information in the areas of metaphysics, occultic spirituality, or occultism and spirituality, symbology and consciousness. And you've been bringing this information forward steadily since 2008 on your website, which is whatonearthishappening.com, and your weekly show by the same name. So what changes have you seen over that time in how what you share is received, especially since many more people awakened at the outset of the COVID era?
Yes, I see what's happening as a twofold aspect of consciousness. It's a dual dynamic. You have people who are not receiving this type of information that we talk about in our work, that are listening to mainstream media and forms of media like that, and they are going deeper and deeper into the trance, into the consensus brainwashing, into what I refer to in my work as the state of thrall, which is being held in a satanic mind spell, for lack of a better term. And then you have people who have been receiving this type of information, who have an open mind, who aren't necessarily just taking it all on face value, but they're researching it themselves after hearing it. And they are discovering the real dynamics of control and power in our world, and how that is connected to occult hierarchies, which I talk about a lot in my work, and how the power structure that exists in our world does not have any interests of the people at heart. And those people who are a minority are further waking up to greater levels of awareness to what is really going on our planet. And what I tend to see in my work, which is somewhat encouraging, a lot of people will know me for not being too encouraged by the dynamics of consciousness in our world, and I do tend to look at it from a quite a negative perspective sometimes, especially in the area where I live, in the area of the United States, in Philadelphia where I live, which is very, very low consciousness, unfortunately. However, what I do see happening in the small minority of people that have become awakened to this information and are aware of what's really going on around them is I see that small minority getting more active now. They are sort of coming online and beginning to do work themselves instead of just acquire information and take it in and just keep doing that. They are beginning, it is at the very beginning stages of those type of people realizing that they themselves have to put this information out there for others. And I'm definitely seeing the worm turn in that regard, where they are beginning to do that work. They are beginning to put that information out there for other people in their own unique ways. And that is somewhat encouraging to me. I've seen this dynamic happening over the last several months, at least, certainly since the whole COVID narrative has been pushed and is now really beginning to break down, and people are beginning to realize the inherent contradictions within that narrative. Even from a more mainstream perspective, you're seeing that. For example, here in Philadelphia, they declared mask mandates yet again. We're the only city in all of North America to do that. And I went out publicly yesterday, socially, and I did not see indoors people honoring the citywide mask mandate, which was a good sign in the places at least that I went to. I saw people completely flagrantly ignoring it, which is it's amazing, because here, as I said, it's generally low consciousness and people are of that mainstream media mindset. And even here, people are realizing, hey, this didn't really do any good, and this is something that we can ignore and not be at any danger or risk. So I think their narratives are beginning to break down, which is why they're shifting into other narratives and are going to come up with some new things to put people in another state of fear vibration. That's their whole game. That's the only place they could really control people's minds from, is to put them in that negative vibratory energy of fear-based consciousness all the time.
So what is in that case, if that being the case, and of course you and I know it is, this consistent, endemic and systemic effort to sustain blood economy, the idea of scarcity, to infuse the intellectual, psychocultural gestalt with fear and fearfulness, and the reflexivity and contraction and constriction that comes with fear, because it's an elemental thing. It turns into this, changes the dynamic of the spin of atoms, changes the cellular matrix, changes the blood chemistry, changes health and wellness and prosperity. Everything issues off that. What is the defining or catalyzing hair trigger that human beings who are on the fence need to focus on in order to redeem themselves from this cult of fear and fearfulness?
Well, I would say that the very short form answer to that is knowledge. However, we could talk about the kind of knowledge that is required. Now, if you simply think about it from a perspective of consciousness, fear is the dynamic that shuts consciousness down. It is the opposite dynamic of the love energy, the love vibration, but we're not talking just about romantic love or even familial love. We're talking about love of truth. We're talking about, extended love in consciousness, and, love for the freedom of all. That's what we're really talking about when we talk about higher level love. And that, if you really boil it down, is a form of knowledge, because what breaks down fear in anything that someone may be fearful of? We could give examples, right? Maybe firearms might be a good example. Okay, here in the United States, it's a tradition of firearms ownership, of self-defense, and there are people here in the United States and abroad who do not understand how to use firearms. They've maybe never picked one up. They've never handled one. They've never broken one down, cleaned one, shot it, So they might have a lot of trepidation. They might have a lot of fear in using it. They understand its deadly force capabilities. But what would dispel that fear is truly understanding that device. You take in the knowledge of how it works. Okay, you take in the knowledge of how it may be used, and then you're going to dispel fear. Then someone's going to get confidence because of that knowledge. They're going to understand, hey, if you handle it safely, if you understand how it works, if you treat it with respect, if you don't treat it negligently, then you're going to be in an empowered capacity with that item. And it's the same thing with anything else. You could talk about computers. I teach a technology seminar 6 months out of the year, and I see people going into it sometimes with a lot of fear and trepidation. They simply don't understand a lot about the realm of computing and how it works and what to do and what not to do. So they come into it with fear, and they're a little bit scared. They're a little bit hesitant to get their hands in there and start working. But then as the course goes, they gain a little bit more confidence. Why? Because they're gaining knowledge. As knowledge comes in, and as you know more about how something works, fear always dissipates, whatever field of endeavor we're talking about.
That's terrific. And that's the best explanation I've heard of reversing entropy and the dynamics of reversing entropy. That's beautiful. We launched the Arise Guerrilla News Network to counter censorship and to give people in our networks real news, and also to empower them to get into the game, to disseminate information. And our presenters often say that we are the real media now, which is patently we are. That you are teaching a 23-week seminar titled How to Become the True Media. Can you tell us about that and what prompted you to launch it, and how's it going?
Sure. So the type of knowledge that I'm referring to that we really need to have is occulted knowledge. It has been hidden from humanity over the centuries and the generations, really over the aeons. And we need the knowledge of true objective morality and how natural law works and how our free will behaviors work in conjunction with natural law to bring us the manifested results of what we're going to experience in life. I call this the real law of attraction in my work. Right. That as we behave in ways that are rightful, that are not doing wrongdoings to others by initiating harm against other sentient beings, if we align our behavior to those natural law rights, we're going to see order and freedom develop in our life arena. But however, if collectively humanity does not do that, and we continue to do the things that we have been doing, we continue to violate others' natural rights, and we continue to go along with this enslavement system that we are all embedded in, out of fear, then we are going to see more shutdown of human rights. We're going to see more slavery in humanity. It's going to transition from covert slavery, which exists right now, to overt slavery. And that is what I call the law of freedom, that as morality increases in a population, the population's freedom subsequently increases. And as morality declines, the population's freedom declines, and they go into deeper bondage and slavery as a species. Now, how to become the true media came about because what I'm ultimately teaching in my work is true objective morality, and how to align one's behavior to it to create those orderly results that we say we want to see in human life. Right. And I realized in doing this work myself that clearly there weren't enough people doing it. And if we're going to maximize our impact on the population in helping them to receive this knowledge, that we needed a lot more teachers. And then in talking to people about why they were not yet doing this type of work, the absolute number one answer by far and away that I received from them was that they simply did not understand the technological component to be able to do this work in new forms of media and distribute it and get it out to the public in a wide way. They simply didn't have that knowledge under their belt, and therefore they were sort of fearful of beginning because they lacked that knowledge. So in conducting little social experiments and polls with people who they themselves had a lot of knowledge, they knew about what was really going on, but they were not yet active in communicating that knowledge. I realized we have to get them up to speed technologically with understanding how all of these new forms of media work. How do you build a modern website? How do you make a podcast? How do you do a video show like this, an interview, etc.? And people basically were at either square one or just, negative. They really had none of this information under their belt. So I felt like the best way, in addition to teaching them the actual esoteric and occult knowledge about morality and about the occult sciences, that the best way that I could go about additionally helping people was to formulate a seminar that teaches people all of these technical skill sets that they can employ to get this information out to others. And that evolved to become what I now call How to Become the True Media. That's a 23-week seminar. I teach it July through December. It's one evening a week for 3 hours. And I teach all of the skill sets technologically that are required to basically do what, truth tellers like us do out publicly, put together this information, presentations, podcasts, videos, etc., and websites, how to get it out to people. And this is what I do the second half of the year. I do a video show from January through June, and then July through December, I exclusively am dedicated to teaching this seminar to people, and it's been very, very, very successful over the last couple of years. This is going to be the third year into the seminar now, and it's all basic and intermediary skill sets. It's not overwhelming people with high level expert technical knowledge. This is very basic skill sets, and we work our way up to intermediate skill sets later in the later portions of the seminar.
Very good. So you're not going to too abstruse a function there. It's elementary stuff. What are you offering in respect of taking people the extra mile out of the elementary cage? Where can they learn from you? So you could visit my main website, whatonearthishappening.com. I also run a curated network of content creators, and Sasha, I'd love to have a discussion with you about the potential of getting you onto that network. It's onegreatworknetwork.com. And then again, second half of the year, I teach the How to Become the True Media seminar. If you're interested in learning the technical skill sets for that, you can check out that website at howtobecomthetruemedia.com. Terrific.
And just want to say one more thing about the seminar. It's not just technical skill sets that are really ultimately taught in that seminar. That's obviously a huge portion of it. But there are life skills taught in that seminar about organization, about focus, about dedication, about persistence. It's related to doing this type of work, and it's related to focusing in on the technology to get it to do what you want it to do. And so you're going to be learning life skills like that as part of the seminar that extend to all other endeavors in human life, not just technology. So I just wanted to say those are that's the extra mile, so to speak, that is really taught in deeper parts of the class, like in between teaching the technology. I'm helping people to pick up those life skills as well.
Very good, thank you. Well, just in closing, and being a little lighthearted about the matter, people around the world, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, are observing the latest theatrical production of Johnny Depp and his wife, former wife, Amber Heard, the actress, playing out their dysfunctional reality in courtroom inverted commas. And it really, as I just see this proliferating on social media threads everywhere, everybody wants to sniff around Johnny Depp's underwear and Amber Heard's underwear. It's grotesque. It's disgusting. It's base. It's bestial. It's very common. And it really describes perfectly the extent or the degree to which people of the world haven't the faintest fucking idea what law is or remedy is or jurisdiction is. So just taking that into account, my question to you is, are the commercial law courts, as we understand them today in the mundane sense, and their fictitious jurisdictions, are they relevant or useful in any capacity whatsoever, even if it's nailing your former spouse for $50 million defamation?
I would say for really higher level understanding and personal things, I would say no, they are not. I consider myself sovereign, period. which means that there is no authority or jurisdiction over me, so long as I am not harming other sentient beings. Once you're performing harm, then obviously people have the right to prevent you from doing that and to stop you from doing that harm. But all things being equal, someone simply living their lives is under no obligation to obey man-made constructs that they call laws. Whether they are in alignment with natural law or not. If they are, they're a redundancy. If they're not, they're a contradiction against it, and therefore they're a wrongdoing in and of themselves. So my ultimate answer to that is not really, but in the sense of, if people were to organize and fight back against like mandates, medical mandates, things like that, I see there being possibly some potential to tie up harmful legislation and to possibly get rid of it if people fight that in that own fictitious arena. Yeah. I think the best answer always is simply ignore them out of existence. Understand that you are already sovereign. You don't have to do any tricks to gain your sovereignty. And I simply live my life according to my natural rights as a living being. Do not initiate harm against other sentient beings, and ignore people who consider themselves your master, who consider themselves able to legislate what you do or what you may do or may not do. I think the very best answer in regard to all of that is recognize it for the illusion that it is, that indeed there is no such thing as man's authority over other men and women, and we need to recognize that mentally, and that's what ultimately will break down their ultimate source of power, which is the belief in the authority of human beings. There is no such thing in actual point of fact nature. In natural reality, there is no such thing as authority of one being over another. So once we realize that's what ultimately will break this spell and this state of thrall that humanity is currently in, and that's when we're going to start truly exercising our natural rights and truly gaining our freedom as natural living beings. That's the ultimate solution, lies in the mind.
And my new favorite pastime is going to be ignoring Anthony Fauci and Nancy Pelosi out of existence. I think that is a formidable idea, and I thank you for it. Mark Passio, thank you so much for joining Guerrilla today.
Thank you, Sasha.
Yay. Well, I hope you enjoyed that drop from the incredible Mark Passio, and I'm really looking forward to doing some deep dive stuff shortly, because what an incredible resource he is. Okay. I wanted to speak very momentarily before I bring my next illustrious guest, the renowned bounty hunter, onto the stage here. I want to temper today's frontline activism with something that's more important than frontline activism, which is ancient prophecy. Luke 21:25, and there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and on the earth, distress of nations. Well, isn't that the truth? And it's something which we've all been bearing witness to in recent months and in the last couple of years for sure. When the blue star Kachina makes its appearance in the heavens, the fifth world will emerge. This will be the day of purification. The blue star actually appeared over China in 2019. Anyone can check that out. The ancient Hopi prophecy of the blue star says the purification of humanity will begin in China, in a race that first revealed the light. After the blue star makes its appearance, for some time, there will be no more ceremonies around the world. Particles in the air and the ether will cause a disease that no medicine can cure. The appearance of the blue star is the last sign before the fifth world emerges. And the fourth world shall end soon because of the corruption of humanity and the abuses of Mother Nature. Those who are at peace in their hearts already are in the great shelter of life. The Great Spirit returns after the time of purification, and life becomes again everlasting. The Hopi tribe, as well as the Tibetan Buddhists, share the same thousands of year-old prophecies about the blue star, and they've been waiting for this time of the great turning for millennia and have been performing ceremonies wearing masks. They say when the fifth world emerges, the masks will be removed during a dance before uninitiated children of the general public. Are these the masks we're all wearing during coronavirus? That is my question, which I've taken a meme, which was sent to me. I've spoken at great length about Hopi prophecy, especially within the Lazarus Symposium. I think we need to pay a lot of attention to the ancestral wisdom, friends, because it's all there. And the piece that I want you to take away today is that beautiful saying connected to the Hopi prophecy, which is those who are at peace in their hearts are already within the great shelter of life. And that's really what it comes down to. You in the now, and how you've calibrated the absence of fear and constriction, how you step out of the mindfuckery of the status quo and step into the flame of pure truth and right action and start to cleave your own path in this world and start to manifest, embody, and enact in this world to your highest dictate, which is, of course, your conscience. All right, let's bring on my next guest. Boom, 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 boom. Forgive me, I've got to look here. There she is, Michelle Gomez. Are you with me, girl? Michelle. Hello. All right, I'm not hearing Michelle. Joanne,
Trouble with her connection.
What's that?
She's having trouble with her connection. She keeps dropping. There she is. She's here.
I'm not hearing her. That's the
Can you
problem.
see her?
Yeah, I can see her. I'm the one who brought her in, but I can't hear her. Michelle, can you hear us? You may be muted, and you may need to unblock your camera. Okay, I'm going to jump to my next guest. Joanne, speak to Michelle and hopefully contain her in the green room. Thank you. Next up, I'm going to bring in, boom, 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 is Scott. Scott McKay is not with us yet. It's too up. I think Michelle's just arrived. Michelle, hi. We can't hear you. Can you unmute your microphone? Forgive me. You should have been run through all of this earlier. Okay, dropped altogether. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Guys, these are the trials and tribulations of live broadcast. I'm supposed to now do fancy footwork, do a juggling routine, or I could slate the Bavarian Illuminati. But let me instead bring Scotty Sachs on. Scotty.
Hey, Sasha, how are you, brother?
Always happy to see you in the green room. Makes me feel very contained, very safe, because you're one of the few people I know I can always throw a microphone at and I can run out the room.
Yeah, I can handle it. So first want to say, Sasha, sorry you will not be attending and speaking at the Liberties Horizon event next weekend in Southern California. You're a busy guy. Sorry you can't make that event.
Yeah, sorry about that too, Scott. I'm not going to go into why I can't get on a plane this week. I don't want to go into that right now, but I'm sad that I'll be missing your face. But I think we'll be connecting in the next few weeks in any event, either here in Mexico or in the United States. But Scotty, just riff today. Tell us what is happening in mainstream media with the ever increasing vortices of deception.
Gonna talk about some good things today. So friends, Americans, and patriots of the world, lend me your ears, because I've come to bury the satanic mainstream media, not to praise them. Hello, everybody. It's great to be here with such a great group of people. I want to thank the Guerrilla News Network team behind the scenes that makes this possible. Joanne and everybody else. Miriam, thank you. Of course, all of you great people listening around the world in the audience. We wouldn't be here without you. And we all know we are the mainstream media now. So my report today is going to focus on the demise of the mainstream media via lawsuits. Now, yes, the legal system is a bad construct and a complete contradiction. Yet in the case of what's coming at the mainstream media, the legal system will indeed serve us, we the people. The mainstream media, they're partners in the fake news and censorship known as big tech, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, the like. The mainstream media and big tech face lawsuits at every turn. And there's three types of lawsuits that are going to help bury the mainstream media. The first type of suit that will break up many of the conglomerates is antitrust suits. A group of 37 attorney generals filed a major multi-state antitrust lawsuit against Google, and there are more antitrust suits coming at the 6 cabal corporations that own mainstream media. So we're going to hear a lot of antitrust talk. The antitrust laws, so to speak, will serve us well in the case of breaking up the cabal and their media. And again, 37 attorney generals in 37 states have already begun the process. Next, there are defamation suits. Politicians, celebrities, and ordinary citizens like the Covington kid, his name was Nick Sandman. He already was awarded an undisclosed amount, although I hear from good sources Linwood got him $200 million in his defamation suit versus CNN. But the civil suits in the form of defamation suits are piling on. We all know that Donald Trump has several defamation suits, Devin Nunes. Now Kyle Rittenhouse has hired Linwood, the young man in Wisconsin that was destroyed by the media for defending himself against some Antifa punks. There was he stood a murder trial. He was exonerated. He was found not guilty, and he has a lot of suits forthcoming in the form of defamation suits. Thirdly are the ones I really like, the criminal suits. The mainstream media is already seeing a barrage of their mid-level executives in management and production being charged with pedophilia and crimes against children. Yep, these sick bastards, including the latest, a CNN producer. There have been hundreds of mid-level executives and producers in mainstream media charged with crimes related to kids and pedophilia in the last 5 years. It started during the Trump administration, and it hasn't stopped, which kind of gives you an indication who might be in control in the United States. That the fact that these lawsuits are still piling on gives us a little indication who's in control. Moreover, as Joey Gilbert was speaking about crimes against humanity that are coming, potentially individual executives within mainstream media and their corporations are going to be found complicit and conspiratorial surrounding COVID and the vaccine agenda. So lawsuits will serve us well. The legal system will finally serve us. As corrupt and backward as it is, it's going to serve us well. On another note, ratings continue to decline for mainstream media. In some instances, the audiences are down 90%. So they have a 10% of the audience they had just a year and a half ago. These are not sustainable levels, folks. They cannot sustain their business model at this level of viewership, down 90%. The bottom line, massive litigation and bombshell, bottom of the barrel, horrendous ratings are their downfall. They're in the midst of their downfall. Make no doubt about it. It's happening right now. It can't be said enough. We're the mainstream media now. I want to close with a note. Saturday, April 30th, on my radio show, Sovereign Radio, Scott McKay will be my guest. Scott is going to give us the lowdown and do a deep, in-depth look at Operation Tomahawk and the Patriot Switch, 7 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Central, 10 Eastern, Scott McKay on Sovereign Radio. Just go to sovereignradio.net. That's sovereignradio.net and click on the microphone. That'll take you to the audio stream player at the radio station. We will be broadcasting from the belly of the beast, Scott McKay and I, next Saturday, the 30th. Listen, Scott, what he's going to talk about, this Patriot switch, it's a no-brainer. We're switching out poisonous, toxic cabal products for all natural products made in America from a family business. We're taking money away from the cabal. They don't like that. I've seen within the mainstream media, I've seen one broadcast network take money away from another. The networks, the network executives, the boardroom, they go ballistic when NBC takes money from ABC and vice versa. They are beside themselves. So you can imagine the blow to their ego and pocketbook when millions are making the Patriot switch. Tune in next Saturday, April 30th, sovereignradio.net.
God, Scotty, you must be so popular with all of your former colleagues in mainstream media.
They're not happy with me, a lot of them, Sobs. But the truth is, most of the people in the trenches that I work with, the mid-level salespeople, the production people, they're good people. Many are awake, some are still woke, but they're good people. And it's like every industry. It's the 1%ers that run the mainstream media, that own and operate it. They're the satanic cabal. The people in the trenches that I work with are good people.
Well, we all know who they are in our various office blocks, I think, roundabout now, whether you're working in the banking sector, you're working in corporatocracy anywhere, you're working in media, you're working in the pharmaceutical industry, you're working in the public health administration sector, you're working in government, you're working as one of the numbskull functionaries of the great satanic technocracy and bureaucracy that prevails in the world. You know who's who in your office block by now, and if you haven't worked it out, you're brain dead. The point being this: when you've worked out who these deviants are upstairs, why aren't you taking a stick to them? Why aren't you mobilizing yourselves? And that's really the critical point. Scotty, stay there, please. I want to bring in oh Christ, she just dropped off. I was just about to bring Michelle in, but she's dropped off again. Joanne, what's the latest on Michelle? Is she able to join or not?
She just keeps trying to come in and out.
All right, let's just see.
Link.
She has a new link. Okay, well, I'll bring her in. She is a famous bounty hunter, and we're very keen to speak to her and find out what Skip Tracer, which is what she's known as, is finding in the deep state basement when she's helping to unearth trafficking of children, organs, drugs, guns, and everything else you can imagine. But until we see her jump back on, here she is. Let's see. Michelle, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can see you.
Yes.
And I can hear you.
Very good. Very good.
How you
Very
doing?
happy to meet you. Happy to make your acquaintance, and thank you for joining us today. Are you hearing me or not?
Yes, I can hear you.
I was just saying thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to
Kind
meet
of.
y'all on live TV or a video TV.
Well, we can
I have
see
you
we
on my
can see
mobile
you.
phone.
We can see you well now. I've got a couple of questions for you, Michelle. What exactly does a bounty hunter do, and what does Skip Tracer do?
Well, a skip trace is let's see how I can lay this out for the public. My primary task is to locate the person, the fugitive, locate assets. I discover the behavior of a person as I'm locating them and looking into them and digging in their background. There's a definition out there on Google, which is like the skip tracer is the process of locating a person's whereabouts. A skip tracer is someone who performs the task, which may be a primary occupation. Well, I've been doing this since 2000, and I learned the behavior of someone that is evading arrest, does not want to be found, if they're hiding their assets. I need to know, what are they doing? How are they living? What church do they go to? What are they doing in their daily life? Who do they eat with? Who do they hang out with? And you can't get that just based on a file, on a piece of paper, looking at their basic information that they provided to the bonding agency or a court or whatever have you. I dig into this person or person's background. I look at their social media if it's available. I get to know them. I look at their videos and they have personalities that we're not aware of on paper, because you can't see a personality on paper. So that's what I do. I have a gift for discovering that information so that I can help myself locate their whereabouts, where they lie their head at night.
Very good.
And that is
very good
for everyone.
Okay, tell us a bit about human trafficking and organ trafficking. Emphasis: human trafficking and organ trafficking. How bad is it in 2022?
It's bad. We have trafficking at the border, Mexico, all the border entries. We have kids getting taken. They're getting lured off the social media apps. And I hate to be so blunt, but if the child is not so good looking, guess what? They're going to be dead. They're going to get used for organs, and they're going to be sold. That's as simple as I can put it. And parents need to engage with their children and get them off these damn social media apps. A child should not have a phone until they're able to pay for their own light to be turned on. These kids are on social media at night, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, TikToking, Snapchatting, doing whatever they want to do. Why? Because you got a parent that is not engaging with their child and not knowing what their child is doing. Children have a different personality online, a whole different, they have their own different reality online. Why? Because the parent is not paying attention to them in real life. And if we can eliminate these parents from giving their children a goddamn phone, we can eliminate a lot of this trafficking going on. These kids are being lured off the phone, out of their home, and meeting a stranger. And for what? For a disappearance? For another disappearance? Another so-called runaway? The police are not even equipped to deal with what's going on right now. They have no idea how to handle a missing child. Oh, well, they want to hurry up and put it. It's a runaway. It's not a runaway. It's a runaway from what they have in real life, which is a parent that's negligent. And that is why I'm so upset with all this missing kids and runaways. Yes, there's problems. We all have problems with our kids. I'm dealing with one myself, but we're controlling that very well. And I don't see a problem with her anymore here, but we have to, as parents, to protect our children. And I'm not a parent of 5 or 10 kids, but guess what? My voice can carry on to all the countries and all the United States. Say, parents, engage with your children, know your child. What color? What's their favorite color? What do they like to eat? Who's your best friend? What are your passwords? What are your usernames? What communities are you talking in? Who are you engaging with? Somebody named Mr. Snowman, Mr. Who, Mr. What? Who are you? Give them 20, 15 minutes, 30 minutes of time on that phone, and that is it. Get them to do chores, get them to engage with you on outside activities, go talk with them, go sit with them, read a book with them. But right now, we got all these goddamn phone companies issuing phones to whoever wants to walk in and get a phone. But guess what? It all relies on the parent. It's the parent's fault for the child to leave the house.
Beautiful.
And to be lured out of the house.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing up this very important aspect of the conversation. Listen, as far as you're concerned, what do the real numbers look like? I learned the numbers over a decade ago from the founder of the Federal Child Tracking Agency in the United States, who came to me, appealing to me and my foundation in the United Kingdom to please help with our political access to try and tell the world the truth about the real numbers of missing children, because the federal government was lying through its teeth annually about the figures, and they were laundering the truth and the figures about the missing children. That was 15 years ago. As far as you're concerned, what kind of numbers are we looking at just in the North America alone? Do you have any real idea?
Honestly, I don't, sir. I get calls all the time with parents crying and pleading, Michelle, can you help me? My child is missing. My child, last night, I was talking to them at 2 o'clock and 1 o'clock in the morning, and they were on their last social media event talking to a Snapchat or talking on a forum. And honestly, I don't know. The numbers are big. And I can't give you a thorough number because I don't want to be criticized, because it could be way off, or I could be way off. But it's right now, as we speak, I think they said almost every 5 minutes a child goes missing.
Yeah, there we go.
And
so
we have what, 24 hours in a day?
Yeah.
And how many disruptive families are we dealing with? How many kids are out there that are dealing with a disruptive home?
Yeah, very good. Listen, can you give us any news on what's really happening at the on the borders in the United States right now?
A lot of trafficking. Right now, I know that a lot of illegals are coming in without getting the so-called COVID shot or whatever have you. You know what? Right now, I'm going to say this bluntly. We have a Democratic Party that is a goddamn criminal organization, letting all these illegals come in. Here they want a U.S. citizen to abide by legal laws, but yet you got illegal aliens coming in and not abiding. What the hell do you call that?
Yeah.
That's so unfair. We do not have a president. There is no president in the White House. That old man of a piece of shit, Joe Biden, is a criminal, as his son, and all the other politicians that like to ride in the same boat with him.
Very, very good. Well, Michelle, thank you for that bluntness. I think you probably got many thousands of people nodding their head along with you, watching you live right now. I can't think of anyone who would disagree with anything you've said. Thank you. Stay on the line. I just want to bring in my final guest and my bestie on the planet, Scott McKay. Scott, how you doing, brother? Can't hear you. Can't hear you, Scott.
I said, good to see you, baby. What a way to start out my Sunday, seeing Sasha Stone.
Well, you got me. You've got a bounty hunter, and you've got Scotty Sachs there. How are things moving with the Operation Hatchet Tomahawk?
I know that's the most beautiful setup I ever get. I love it. By the way, Michelle's a forking badass, man. I love the wife. She never has the bounty on me. I don't want to deal with her. That's awesome. You know what, Sasha, listening to you guys, I was on another meeting, so I didn't get a chance to hear the whole thing today. Regretfully, I hate when I can't at least listen to this. Michelle, thanks for what you're doing out there. You nailed it on the kids. As I'm sitting here thinking about parents and their irresponsibility that's become part of our culture, she's dead right. People are just shucking their responsibility. Many people have heard about Operation Tomahawk. We're talking about it. We're promoting it. I want to make something very clear. This idea of making the Patriot switching your money, your buying dollars, voting with your dollar. Right now, as I said, Sasha, you heard this too. Many people last summer when we were on tour, and then again when we were on tour last fall, these are people that want to get in the fight, and that's been the whole premise. Yep. Once I moved this mission away from sitting, delivering intel, digging up intel, passing on intel that I'm getting to all my audience, I made a switch to now it's time for action. We already know we got a massive problem. We can keep getting more and more intel because some guys like to sit around and just shit out like it's going to make a difference in the world. Nothing makes a difference in this world until people get in the fight, until they take action. And that's been my mission since last summer. And so now, of course, coming across the idea of the Patriot Switch and then creating and launching Operation Tomahawk, this has become a way that people around the country can now get in the fight. Because when you look at all these companies where we've been buying all this shit that poisons us, 11 corporations own 97% of all these companies that we buy all this stuff from. And they've even bought out the products, companies like Tom's, etc.
Have you dropped, Scott?
I'm still here. Is you?
Okay. No, you're back on. Carry on,
Okay.
Scott.
Probably not a good internet connection, but we've got these 11 companies that control 97% of the brands that we buy, and those companies, these 11 companies, are controlled by BlackRock, Vanguard, and Street. These are the that are forming critical race theory, Planned Parenthood, BLM, all this bullshit that they're putting on top of us. So now that we have put this thing in motion, can make the Patriot Switch stop giving their money to these companies that are wiping out
Okay, we hear. I think you dropped there slightly. Sorry, Scott. I can see you're not at home. I think you're in a hotel. Is that correct? Are you in a hotel?
I'm in a hotel. How's it sounding? Sounding good? Okay, right now?
Okay. Yeah, you're coming in and out, so not a problem. I could tell you weren't at home, and whoever made that bed up behind you didn't go to boarding school, because they sure as hell don't know how to do the hospital corners.
I have many skill sets. That's not one of them.
Sorry, you're back on. Just carry
Awesome.
on, please. We really want to know more about Operation Tomahawk and how it's moving.
Great. So being able to have a choice to move our dollars away from Rock, Vanguard, and State Street companies that are funding critical race theory, Planned Parenthood, and all this bullshit, the cancel culture. Now people can take the exact same money that they're spending to buy the things they buy every month for their household over to one company, Patriot Company, does billions a year, been around 37 years, okay? So now what Operation Tomahawk has done is taken away everybody's excuse that says they're a patriot. You can't now say, I want to get in a fight, I'm a patriot, and then say, yeah, I don't think I'm interested in Operation Tomahawk or the Patriot Switch. I want to keep giving my money to the murder machine. Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street, all these companies that are doing what they do to American and world culture and society. So I'm not actively involved in talking to the people every day. My team is, but I'm like, look, folks, don't let them off the hook. Don't let them off the hook. They say that this isn't for me, it doesn't fit. Ask them directly. So you want to keep funding the murder machine, the people using our money to kill us, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, cancel culture, Planned Parenthood, BLM, that's on me. You want to keep funding them, because I'm confused. You're saying you want to help fight in this war, you want to get in a fight, make the Patriot Switch, okay? Well, now it's basically a very subtle way of me calling people out. I called myself out. I was the biggest hypocrite. We're shopping at big box stores we've been herded into after they destroyed our friends' businesses all over the country. And I had to say, you know what, Scott, you're full of shit. You need to get involved in this thing. Stop giving these big box stores your money and these chemical companies that are killing us. So we launched it. Now, here's the impact. Sasha, here's the impact. This is what I've been told. This company said this. Now, they've been in business 37 years, American made, American everything. They do $2 billion. What they said from Operation Tomahawk, what they have seen since we launched it, is unprecedented. It's a massive explosion. And it's primarily, number one, because of the tech platform I had built, paid for, funding the guy to run, funding to operate it, right? So there's more money going into Operation Tomahawk that's coming to me from this operation. And that's the whole plan, to use this thing as a self-feeding machine to get the Patriots to join this fight and get in the fight. It's getting people an opportunity to get in the fight. And number three is the fact that we get to hear every day these absolutely patriots to say, I don't care how this works, I just want in. because I want to join this fight. Now, imagine, I think we probably put on 750 people just in the last 3 weeks. You don't do that in this kind of business anywhere on the planet, to be able to move that kind of weight of buying power, the purchasing dollars away from those scumbag criminal companies right into what's going to help us with natural products that aren't going to kill us. And we're just getting started. If we didn't have this technology platform to bring this wave in and direct it, which I'm giving all away, I'm not taking any of it for myself. I'm giving it all away to the people who want to help construct this machine that, in my opinion, in 3 years will bring 10 million people away from that model, and 10 million people of buying power into something that's going to fund all of us to continue to spread this thing. I think for me, it's the most important step I've taken, because I said before, we've been kicking their asses with their tools they've used against us. We got involved in information warfare for the last several. We're now kicking their ass. They've been like economic warfare, these criminals and these companies, on us, my life. Guess what? That's when the light went off. Perfect tool, perfect weapon. The new mission at Patriot Street Fighter is to add on to information warfare, is economic warfare. We're going after these bastards' bank accounts and their money. We're going to choke out their blood supply. We're shutting off their cash flow. We can no longer sit here and say, we're patriots. I want to save America, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep giving these people my money to help murder the rest of you and me.
Right.
That doesn't fly anymore. There's no do-over here, right? There's no do-over. This is our last chance at a winner to get this country back and bury these companies. And this is showing the power of we the people. That's the most exciting thing. It's showing the power of we the people to amass this army this fast. So anybody that wants to take a look at this, it's really simple. We have the Patriot switch, right? Well, we just branded it a little differently. It's the Tomahawk switch, because we're using my hatchet. I mean my tomahawk, Sasha. We're using the Tomahawk. We're going to cut off their blood supply, their cash flow. So go to tomahawkswitch.com, tomahawkswitch.com, and give yourself a little bit of a tour. Do it on your own. Now, by the way, when you land in there, you'll see a drop-down box. How did you hear about tomahawkswitch.com? There's a drop-down box that we put in there that'll bring up Stone's name. You can click that on, because you heard me here on AGN. So that way, anybody that comes through this message today, you're going to be part of what we have constructed for Sasha's team, and his also to try to help whatever he chooses to do, likely fund this New Earth initiative. So we get all these great things going on. I mean, I watched Sasha the other day. You're cruising around these beautiful creatures, cows, baby calves around, building this new haven. These things have to be funded, folks. So the way that you help fund all the initiatives of the benevolent light being patriots is you get involved in what they are doing. I've heard the bullshit already from clowns like Jordan Sather and other dipshits. This is a cash grab. I'm like, you know what? Here's the difference. Cash grab, yeah, from the criminal to give to the people. That's the cash grab. I don't need the money. I don't need the money to for my lifestyle to maintain. I'm using their money to fuel a machine that we're constructing to bring them down. New Earth Haven, all that stuff. It takes funding. There's all the money in the world. We have to go after these multi-trillion-dollar conglomerates, figure out, get their money, and start building this earth the way it should have been, the Garden of Eden. This just happens to be a weapon to do it. And the simple fact that a multi-billion-dollar company sat up, called up me on the phone, they want to have a conversation like, holy Mary, Mother of God, whatever you're unprecedented, that's what makes it so exciting. So anyway,
that's great news. What I'd like to do, Scott, with your permission, we'll take up a conversation maybe in the next few days, but I think it might be time to do an Operation Tomahawk Summit and a big kind of marathon broadcast, and rope in a lot of our friends, not just in the United States, actually, but from around the world, who can also participate. Are you down for that?
100%. 100%.
Great. All right. I'll pick up the conversation with you in the next few days, and I'd love to get behind helping to produce that, because we really need to fibrillate this emergent initiative of yours into glorious Technicolor. But salutations, brother, and thank you so much for taking up the vanguard as usual, putting your head above the parapet, taking those rocks at the head. Let all of the naysayers and detractors do what they do. They will, in the fullness of time, do unto themselves. Scott, any last words on how people can right now, right here today, sign up, get on board? Just repeat it.
Yeah, just go to tomahawkswitch.com. Tomahawk is TOMAHWK. It's not hatchet. Switch.com. Go ahead and you find a drop down box there. Click that in there. Add Sasha's name so we know anybody comes through here will be directed to flow, be a part of what you utilizes to help fund any of his missions. And my secret weapon now is Scotty Sachs. I was so excited when I talked to Scotty. I'm thinking of Scotty, got to come on board. Somebody got to him, and I was like, we got Scotty Sachs because he's the media machine that can add this to this movement. So love having you guys.
So Scott, you're going to cause a lot of confusion being called Scott and being called Scotty. I think one of you is going to have to change your name to, I don't know, to Neville or to Angus, or it could be. Is there any number of names?
Yeah, well, I figure I'll be Cecil and Scotty can be Wentworth. We'll be Cecil and Wentworth.
Very good. And my last important question to you, Scott McKay, is, and I know this is a very, very hard question for you, and it's throwing it, at an angle that you weren't expecting, and we're live, and there's many thousands of people looking in, and you kind of fucked either which way. But my question to you is, what is the difference between a tomahawk, a hatchet, and an axe?
Well, the tomahawk, the Patriot Street Fighter tomahawk, I don't have it near me, has a pipe on one end. And the one end that has a peace pipe is what I was willing to offer the cabal scumbag criminals, that if they put down their criminal ways, put down their positions of power, and vacated the offices, we would smoke the peace pipe. If they chose otherwise, when they get the blade, they get the tomahawk. Now that the general, they don't have a choice. The peace pipe is for me to smoke off. The other side is the only tool that they get.
I love it. Okay, so there you have it, folks. That thing that he wields on stage as he crisscrosses America, leading the Patriot Street Fighters, is not, in fact, a pea shooter. It is a peace pipe, come tomahawk. And he's made it crystal clear what it means. Scott McKay, thank you, brother, for joining.
One last thought. Lily DiMartino, you should get the hell out. You're a shill. You're a cabal scumbag puppet. You're going to be dropping that bullshit here. Get out. Get out. We don't need you.
I didn't see anything. Is that a comment coming in from someone?
Stop buying what they're selling. Maybe, you know what, Lily? Maybe Lily's talking about them. So if you are, I apologize. And you're one of us. I thought Phil's jumping in every day and attacking everywhere I go now. And I'm like, you know what? I don't give anybody any quarters. So Lily, if you're one of us, God bless. I love you. If you're a shill, you know exactly what's happening here.
Very good. Scott McKay, brother, love you greatly. Scotty Sachs, love you, brother. Thank you. Michelle, thank you for joining us today. And we're going to ask you to come back on the show at some point with some more pointed questions. Just bringing Maria Chrysler back in. Maria, you got to learn to angle that computer onto your face. We can just see the top of your head. And I'll bring Joanne in representing our brave production crew. Friends, thank you. Look, he said, looking to the audience, thank you for joining us today on the broadcast. We're just 1 minute shy of two hours in, and we'll see you again in a fortnight. Thanks, friends. See you soon.